City of Stevens Point Board of Public Works Committee meeting, recorded February 8, 2021.
Thank you. Next up is the Board of Public Works. I would ask, I think Tricia Church was on here. Trish, could you please call the roll?
Yep. Mayor Weeza.
Here.
Slowinski.
I know he's
here.
That's his name, right?
There he is.
Yeah. Kneebone.
Here.
Laddick.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
And Zarazua.
Here.
Great. We have a full committee. We will move on. Item number 1 is the director's report featuring the Business 51 reconstruction and the 2021 street improvement project. Director Badoon, I know we've got a public information meeting coming up. You want to give us an update on that?
Absolutely, yes. The 2021 street improvement project. We have a public information meeting. The second of the 2 we will be holding on that. That'll be tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. It'll be a Zoom meeting. Information can be found on our website. Hope anyone that may be impacted by that project. It's a fairly large project, 5th Avenue, 1st Street. Take the opportunity that we have to bring their questions and or just call our office and set up an appointment to meet with someone to discuss what we're doing and how that might impact them. So, and in addition to that, related to Business 51, we have a stakeholders group meeting tomorrow, which means for everybody else that we'll be having another public involvement meeting or, kind of something similar to what we had last time, probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks to follow that once we incorporate their comments and move forward with things. So everyone should pay attention to the website. A lot of information will probably be coming forward in the next few weeks, and then be prepared probably for a series of question and answer, sessions like we had last time to bring their comments and questions back to the project team. Let us know what you think about the alternatives we'll be presenting. And then from there, we start working towards the home stretch of trying to narrow it down to one recommended alternative. So hopefully everyone will look at that, take their time to study the materials and bring in their comments to us.
Director, to go a little more in detail, first of all, the street improvement project encompasses, you've got Portage Street and a few other ones in there. When is that meeting again? That meeting is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock via Zoom. Okay. If someone is not able to attend via Zoom, where can they submit their written comments or questions? They can always submit comments through the contact the Director of Public Works through the website, or they can use the email that comes to us, which is dpw@stevenspoint.com. Will also reach our office, and that will get sent to the proper people to incorporate into our file and be considered in the design. Thank you. And again, on the Business 51 reconstruction project, what time is that meeting at again? Well, that public information meeting has not been set. So that's just trying to get a heads up that it's coming soon. We haven't set the date. We're going to see what happens with the meeting tomorrow and how many comments we have. And then we're going to look to see to get the final things put together. So probably about 2 to 3 weeks out. So before we have our next committee meeting, so I don't have another opportunity to announce it. So I just want to get everybody prepared to watch the website and the news outlets for notices to see when it's happening, to make sure they don't miss the opportunity to comment. And John Quirk would be angry with me if I didn't let people know that they can sign up for news flashes also on the city website, stevenspoint.com. You can get push notifications regarding topics of your choice, this being one of them. We also have the mobile app that you can download through the Google Store or App Store. Anything else, Director? No, that's all. Questions for the Director?
Well, this is Alder Slowinski. I would just like to move approval of the Director's report and place it on file.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Morrow. Further discussion.
I have a quick question. Alder Kneebone here.
Yep, go ahead.
Director Badoon, could you, for the sake of my District 7 folks, mention the alley improvements for next year?
Sure. We haven't quite finalized what it is. We're going to increase what we were proposing to do which would be some overlays from some projects. So we'll take the funding that was set aside last year, add some more to it from this year to try to come up with a slightly larger project to do a little bit more. We haven't finalized exactly what that is. We've been working with American Asphalt to come up with some hopefully cost-effective ways to do there that we can accomplish more, and yet get a long-term lasting project completed. They have some ideas. We'll be meeting with them again here in the next few weeks. And then from there, we'll try to sort out, based on our budget, how much we can accomplish.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know a lot of folks, not only in District 7, have issues with alleys. So I appreciate everything that your staff has done to improve those as we go forward. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the director's report and place it on file. Committee members, please unmute yourself. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. Item number 2 is an approval of ordinance amendments regarding section 9.05 as it relates to parking. Director?
Once again, just a big bulk of this is just our continued effort to keep things cleaning up. If you look at the illustrations that are attached there with the ordinances and stuff, you'll often see that there are multiple lines along each block, and each one of those represents an individual ordinance that's on our books. Many times, they may be the same ordinance, and why they're duplicated, we don't know. And other times there are separate and different ordinances there, conflicting ones. So we work with the police department to identify, as well as look out and see how things are currently being signed. And once again, we came up with a list of changes to be made to try to keep things consistent as we move forward. In addition to that, we do have some additional changes and clarifications working with PD related to the areas around downtown, specifically within the square. And actually, it's really the adjacent areas to the square. The ordinances weren't necessarily consistent across there, and there was becoming a point in time where there was some confusion about where things were and how it relates to ordinance related to Lot 9 and the square. And so we tried to clean that up a little bit more to be more consistent with it. So overall, it's mostly just cleanup and consistency than everything else. So, but if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Committee members, questions, comments, or a motion? Alder Jennings.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second Alder Kneebone.
Seconded by Kneebone. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Absolutely. Alder Shore.
Thank you. The change in section 1 of the amendment is on 4th Avenue between Illinois and Michigan. Is in my district. I'm familiar with it. Of course, that's right by where the street reconstruct was last year. And I was in touch with some constituents there about parking because, of course, there was a lot of extra parking during the work. So I would like to request if the board would be so kind to hold off from approving that first one while I and I could focus on this with the director this week to sort it out for council. But if that could be broken out from the whole, that would be helpful, and we'd figure it out. And let me echo Alder Kneebone's appreciation for the alleys work. Of course, the alley running from Frontenac to Minnesota by Main Street is part of that.
Thank you, Alder.
Thanks for that. Yep, thanks.
So just for clarification, you understand it's going from no parking to no parking between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. So it's going from no parking allowed to allowing parking.
I am aware of that. Yes, I am.
Okay. What I would ask then is that since all of the committee recommendations are subject to council approval, that we move forward with the existing motion, and you can hammer out the details, and if need be, we can amend the ordinance at council.
Okay. It's 6 of 1 half. Sure.
It is. It's just less paperwork if we do any amendment. Maybe we get everything hashed out before council and there's no changes. But if there are changes, we can do them at council rather than having to deal with it twice.
If that simplifies, sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all their committee members rather, take your phones off of mute and I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is adopted and will go forward to council with a affirmative recommendation. Item number 3 is to accept the proposal from Barrientos Design Consulting for a facility requirement and site identification study for the new public works facility in the amount of $22,853. Now, when we talk about a new public works facility, I don't want anybody to get freaked out. But as you know, since before I was an alder person, we've been talking about getting the streets facility out of Buchholz Park. We store salt there, we store gasoline there, there's chemicals, heavy equipment, and they, in my opinion, have no place being in a park. We know it's going to be a very expensive proposition to construct a new facility somewhere more centralized in the city. There are efficiencies that go along with that, but the council last year agreed that we need to move forward even if it's baby steps. This is baby step 1, getting a facility design put together so we know what we're dealing with in a possible site location. That's all this is. This is not affirming that we're going to build it next year or the year after or the year after that. But we are going to hopefully get this site identification and facility requirements study done so we know what we need and where we might be able to put it. And that's what we're asking for tonight. Director, anything to add?
That actually summarizes it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, questions, comments, or a motion?
This is Alder Slowinski. Not that I'm not against moving ahead with this, especially for the design and basically determining the facility requirements. But correct me if I'm wrong. I thought as far as site, we kind of had the other portion of that lot over by the bus garage kind of pegged for potential public works. But maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I remember it. So. Again, I'm not against this, but it's more of a curiosity question as far as site identification. So thank you.
And Alderperson, you're not incorrect on that. That is identified as one of the possible sites. As you know, having a facility that large, there aren't a lot of inner city style site locations that would work. So we just want to be sure and have some professionals look at it to see what we're going to need as far as square footage and footprint. And then identify some possible sites to see what might work. Obviously, having something central to the city is most efficient because right now all the plow trucks come out of Buchholz, they come down Forest, or most of them come down Forest, and you're repeating work, or they're driving through areas that someone has already driven through. So having it in a central location allows you to spoke out. But we won't know what possible sites are until we know what size of footprint we're going to need. And I also want to add that this dollar amount was, the funding for this was approved with the 2021 capital budget that was approved by council. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion then.
Alder Sarazo has.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. So sorry, I have it in a different view mode. Maybe I should change that so I can see everybody easier. There we go. Let's try that. Alder Zarazuya, questions?
Yes. Well, just a comment. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just am thankful, even if it's a baby step, that we're starting on this process. I do have personal reasons that I actually enjoy having the city garage at the end of my street, but I appreciate why it will be better to move it out of the park, and also just so that we can get all this equipment stored instead of sitting outside in the elements. We spend a lot of money on this equipment and don't have enough space to garage all of it. So that being said, I would move to approve to have this, sorry, looking at the wording, to have the site identification study completed.
Thank you. So to paraphrase Alder Zarazu, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are motioning to accept the bid from Barrientos Design in an amount not to exceed $22,853. Is that correct?
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second. Alder Morrow.
Seconded by Morrow. Further discussion?
This is Alder Slowinski again. I just, again, now I think about it, I'm just curious, why are we dealing with this on Public Works? Isn't this a finance? We're basically accepting a bid with money. I don't know why we're talking about this at Public Works. This should be finance.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, Alder Slowinski, the committees are all recommendations to council. It could have gone to finance, but because it's a Public Works project, the money was already approved through finance, as you remember me saying, through the capital budget. We are just looking now to accept the bid, and we frequently accept Public Works bids on the Public Works agenda. That being said, finance could have also considered it, I'm sure. However, everybody from that committee's here, and council will still have the final say on all of this.
So was there an RFP put out? I don't see the competitive. Was there only one bid? Now we're getting into finance questions.
And that's okay. I'll have Director Badoon answer your question for you.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's my question is where was it an RFP? Do we have, was this the only bid received?
This was the only quote, proposal we finally requested. I know anyone that's otherwise talked to me since about the time I started here, going on 4 years, I've been kind of pushing this to see where we got to go. So I've spent a lot of time in the last 3 years essentially interviewing firms to do this work. So by the time it came around and was approved by Capital, I knew exactly where I wanted to go for it. Barrientos, this is actually one of the things that they actually specialize in, are municipal garages, county facilities, city, municipal facilities like this. They're actually one of the few that really have the sort of resume like they have. They have quite a few projects even going on in the area, Marathon County, Marshfield, and I believe there's even more. So you'd be hard pressed to find someone with more credentials and experience to do this kind of work in the state of Wisconsin. So I think we're actually feeling very lucky that Norman Barrientos was actually willing to float out a number for when we asked him to, that we would really like him to work with us.
All right, and again, it's not that I'm questioning your judgment again, but I like to be open and fair. I don't want it to look like we're just kind of nitpicking and handpicking these entities for these, for these projects without, giving it a fair shot to others. That's all my argument is.
Absolutely, Alder Slowinski. I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion to accept the proposal not to exceed $22,853. Committee members, please unmute yourselves, and all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, that is approved, and we are adjourned at 6:59.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.